Well, for the past year and a half, I've had the privilege of watching pretty much every speech in this club 2 times. Once live, and the second time on video, because I post them up to YouTube or I email them out to people. And it's really been interesting to watch everything twice because I've picked up a few things. One thing I've noticed is that the women in this club tend to talk very softly. And sometimes on the video, you can't even hear them. And I'll get the emails back from some of our members and say, I can't hear myself. And I'll email back and say, then speak up. The men don't have that problem, Morale. The second thing I've noticed, and maybe somebody can help me understand this, is that more people spend time looking to the left side of this room than the right side, regardless of the camera placement. If you look at when I've got the camera sitting over there, this is the angle that you'll be on video for most of the shots. Don't know why. If anybody can figure that one out, let me know. But that's why I sit over here now. The number one thing that I've noticed, though, is that there's a recurring problem with our speeches. And more evaluators mention this than anything else, and this is dedicated to you, Dave Miller, closing our speeches properly. We have a tendency of trailing off as soon as we see the yellow light, regardless of whether we've made our point or not. And I am as guilty as anyone of trying to cram too much into a speech and running out of time and just dropping the close completely. So what is a good close? Well, I'm a movie buff. So when I started thinking about great closes, I started thinking about movies. And of course, one of the greatest closes of all time to one of the greatest movies of all time came from Casablanca. Rich, what's the greatest closing line of the greatest movie of all time?
Baby, are you ready?
The kind of movies Rich watches would be the greatest close of all time. For the rest of us, of course, it is, Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. What a great close. But what would have happened if the director of Casablanca was a Toastmaster? And he saw the red light flashing, and he got almost to the end of the movie, and it says, Major Stresser has been shocked. Round up the usual. Oh, I see my time is up. Thank you very much. That's how we're ending some of our speeches. Now, TV is another place to find interesting examples of closes, especially if you like courtroom dramas. It can go back as far as Perry Mason or as recent as Boston Legal. What's the most riveting and interesting part of any courtroom drama? It's the closing argument in the trial. The closing argument is the opportunity for the attorney to tie all the loose ends together, tell the story that the judge and jury may have heard for hours, days, weeks, or even months, and leave the judge and jury with the key points they want in their brains stuck there as they head off to their deliberations. Good trial lawyers know that the last thing a person hears is the most likely thing they're going to remember. So as we're writing our speeches and rehearsing our speeches and presenting our speeches, we need to keep that in mind. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. And as you're preparing your speeches, remember that habit. Think about how you're going to close your speech. Think about the point you want to make. Think about the takeaway you want the audience to have. And then build the speech backwards from there. Now you might say, well, Marty, what about the old adage, always leave them wanting more? That's a good point. But wanting more means leaving the audience with such a great experience that you've given them information that's exciting and interesting, and you've closed it brilliantly, that they want you to give an encore. Leaving them wanting more does not mean you stop the speech in midstream and everybody's wondering what your point was. In conclusion, I found this quote by one of the greatest leaders and communicators of the last century, Winston Churchill. And he said, "If you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever. Use a pile driver. Hit the point once, then come back and hit it again, and then hit it a third time with a tremendous whack." Thank you.